9 reasons why Pisces is the most dangerous zodiac sign. Do you relate to this sign? Who do you think is the most dangerous zodiac sign? Scorpio, Capricorn, or someone mysterious and sharp? You might be surprised to learn that it's Pisces, the gentlest zodiac sign, who hides a silent, powerful dark side that's almost unbelievable. Someone who seems to know only how to love, how to dream, but who can withdraw from your heart without leaving a single word of goodbye. No blame, no anger, only silence remains. And within the 9 reasons below, there is one reason of special importance. It is the soul of this entire video. If you miss it, you might regret it for a long time, because it may be something you've always felt but never knew how to name. So please, stay until the end. Not just to listen, but to truly understand a Pisces when they no longer speak, but their heart has already been broken long ago. And if this is your first time visiting the channel, I invite you to hit subscribe, because here you won't just discover astrology, you'll discover yourself through emotions you once thought no one in this world could ever understand. Because if you still believe that Pisces is a pure soul, always gentle, always enduring, then perhaps you've never seen them when that heart begins to shatter. Because the very first thing, and also what makes them the most dangerous, is their emotions. An ocean that seems calm, but can surge into waves and drown anyone at the most unexpected moment. Reason number 1. Emotions that are fragile, but also capable of destruction. Few dare to admit this about Pisces, that their inner world is so delicate that a single careless word could fracture their heart. But it is that very fragility, when built up over time, that can transform into an emotional force so deep it leaves those around them stunned. Because it doesn't erupt like anger, but spreads quietly like an undertow deep beneath the ocean's surface. People often mistake Pisces for being kind, weak, but in truth, they are enduring far more than they ever speak about. They feel every vibration, every sorrow, no matter how small, from others. They can cry for the pain of a stranger or remain silent for days because of a single phrase that pierced their heart. But that pain doesn't come out in anger or accusation. It comes through withdrawal, through a haunting silence. They won't scream at you that you've done wrong. They'll simply disappear, or grow so distant that you can never reach them the same way again. I once loved a Pisces. Every time they were sad, they didn't blame, didn't get angry, they just quietly averted their gaze from me, and I felt as though I had hurt something sacred. Because their emotions are so pure, when they are altered by pain, what they leave behind isn't just hurt, it's haunting. There's a paradox. The most sensitive people are also those who can hurt you the deepest, not because they want to, but because when they love, they give everything they have. And when that love is hurt, the only thing they have left is disappointment. Not in you, but in their own heart, for having loved too much. They don't seek revenge. They don't try to hurt you back. They simply vanish, leaving behind an emptiness that has no name. And you'll realize that void cannot be filled by anything. Because you don't know what you're apologizing for, and you're not even sure if they still want you to stay. Have you ever experienced that feeling? Someone you thought would always be gentle suddenly becomes cold, not because they hate you, but because their heart has grown too tired to keep empathizing anymore. If you've ever met a Pisces like that, or if you are someone carrying such a heart, leave a comment. It doesn't have to be long, just honest. Because maybe someone out there also needs to be understood, the same way you once wished someone would understand you. And here's another truth not many notice. Pisces can love you with their entire soul, but they can also make you miss them for a lifetime with just one silent departure. But that's only a small part of Pisces' emotional journey. Because what makes them dangerous isn't just their pain, but the way they can touch the pain of others without even speaking. And that's when we dive deeper into the next dark layer, where gentleness becomes a tool for guiding others' emotions without even realizing it. Reason number 2, the ability to lead others emotionally through gentleness without anyone noticing. And yes, if you've ever loved a Pisces, you'll understand that feeling. The feeling of being led into a world that is uniquely theirs, beautifully warm, until one day you realize you've lost your own boundaries. You weren't forced. You weren't manipulated, but you slowly came to believe, Following them is truly what you wanted. That's the strange power few recognize. The unspoken persuasive strength of a Pisces. They don't raise their voice. They don't command. They don't use force to control. But they possess a soft energy that touches the emotions of others naturally. They don't force you to do anything. But with their eyes, their voice, the way they share their own wounds, they make you want to stay. You want to protect them. You want to do something to stop their sadness. They make you believe you're the only one who understands them, and that if you let go, they'll fall apart. And then you slowly become the one being led, without knowing. I don't believe Pisces manipulates people intentionally, because most of the time, they're just trying to protect themselves. But sometimes, in that attempt, they unknowingly place others in a position where leaving feels like betrayal. They can make you feel guilty, even if you did nothing wrong. They can cry or go silent, and somehow you feel you've hurt them, even when you yourself are falling apart inside. And that is the most dangerous point, when pain becomes a tool to keep others from leaving, even if unconsciously. When love becomes tangled between affection and emotional debt, between gentleness and emotional pressure. Have you ever been in a relationship like that? One where you're not sure whether you're loving or slowly losing yourself because you're too afraid of hurting the other person? If you were that person or are that person now, share it in the comments. Not to blame anyone, but so you know you are not the only one who feels this way. And if you are a Pisces listening to this, I want you to know, you don't have to be in pain to make someone stay. You don't have to appear fragile to be loved, because your presence is already gentle enough. But what's more frightening is when Pisces themselves no longer believe they can be fully loved. When they feel that the world is too loud, too harsh, and the only way to keep living is to retreat from reality, to seek a gentler world, even if it only exists in dreams. And that is when we step into the next reason. A world where Pisces quietly escapes, not because they are weak, but because reality can be so cruel that even the strongest souls no longer want to face it. Reason 3. When Pisces escapes into their own world to save themselves, there are pains that cannot be named, there are wounds that cannot be described. And when words fail, Pisces often chooses to withdraw, not to avoid but to survive. When emotions become too overwhelming, when reality becomes too brutal, Pisces doesn't react like others. They don't resist, they don't fight, they choose to drift away, silently, gently, almost invisibly. If you've ever loved a Pisces, you'll know that feeling. That one day, they are no longer the person you once knew. They're still there, but their eyes look through you. They smile, but their heart is somewhere else, in a world where no one can hurt them anymore. That is not weakness. It's a survival mechanism, a way they build a private emotional space where they are free to dream, to forget, and to be themselves without needing to defend. But the problem is, when dreams become the only refuge, they begin to drift away from reality. They no longer see the one who is trying to stay. They can no longer feel the hands reaching out to pull them back. I once witnessed a Pisces vanish like that. Not physically, but mentally, emotionally. They were right in front of me, but I couldn't reach them. And what haunts me the most is I didn't know what to do except wait for them to return. But they never did. Their escape wasn't a rejection of you, it was a rejection of pain. And sometimes, in that process, they unintentionally lose the very people who love them the most. Have you ever been the one left behind? Or are you the one who's running away? Sometimes, we don't want to leave anyone, but the weight inside is so heavy that staying hurts more than going. If you are in days like that right now, please remember, it's okay to need silence. But let the one who loves you know that you're still here, that you're just resting, that you don't need to be saved, but you still want to be held. And if you're beside a Pisces like that, please be patient. Don't shout to bring them back. Don't try to explain their pain with logic. Just sit, quietly, like a shore, for them to return to when they are brave enough to face the world again. Because when no dream is beautiful enough to hide in anymore, Pisces will come back to themselves and to those who are truly there for them. But what if the pain keeps going? If the sorrow won't fade? If the wounds continue to pile up? Then what happens? That's when we enter a deeper part of Pisces' soul, where the darkness is no longer wrapped in gentleness, but becomes a part of who they are, silent, deep, and sometimes dangerously unpredictable. Reason 4. When Pisces quietly loses themselves in their inner darkness. Because when the dreams are no longer beautiful enough to hide in, when even the inner world they've built begins to crumble, Pisces is forced to return, but not to others, to the very shadows they once tried to avoid. And that is when everything goes quiet, terrifyingly quiet. No more gentle words, no more tender glances, only silence remains, so deep you can't reach it. Pisces can move among people like a lost soul, smiling while their heart is bleeding. No one thinks they're hurting because they hide it so well. They don't talk about the sadness, they don't show collapse, but inside the waves are screaming and no one hears. That silence is the most dangerous part. You won't know how deeply Pisces is hurting until they erupt in a way you never expected. Not in anger, but in strange behaviors, distant words, or sometimes vanishing without a trace. I once knew a Pisces like that. They laughed at every party, listened to everyone's sorrows, and then one day they broke down. No one knew why. No one understood what had happened. But in truth, it had been happening for a long time. No one was sensitive enough to notice. Pisces has a rare ability. They can carry the whole world's sadness in their heart and still make others feel loved. And because of that, they are rarely asked, "Are you okay?" Because everyone thinks they are the healer, not someone who also needs healing. Have you ever been the one who always smiles to keep others at peace, but inside you feel empty? Have you ever faced the darkest parts of yourself alone, because you were afraid no one would understand if you spoke? If the answer is yes, I want you to know this. You are not alone, and you are not wrong for once being fragile. That only proves that you are truly human, alive, feeling, trying to find your way out of your own darkness. Pisces can get lost in very deep realms of thought, places not everyone is brave enough to enter. They reflect, they judge themselves, they hurt themselves, and then they try to heal on their own. But no one can stay strong forever, alone. And sometimes, what they need is not someone to pull them out of the dark, but someone who dares to stay there with them, in that space. No judgment, no lectures, just presence, and the patience to wait. Pisces is like the ocean, sometimes crystal clear, sometimes stormy, and sometimes so still that it scares people because no one knows what lies beneath. And when the pain has been repressed for too long, when layer after layer of emotion has nowhere to flow, Pisces will seek another way out, not through emotion, not through logic, but through intuition, a kind of sensing power that goes beyond what others can comprehend. It is at that very moment, on the borderline between emotion and the unconscious, that a Pisces can become either deeply understanding or dangerously unpredictable. Reason 5. Intuition is a double-edged sword, and Pisces always knows when to use it to protect or as an answer to pain. And because of that, in a place where reason no longer speaks, Pisces begins to listen to the soft inner voice, intuition. Not everyone has intuition as strong as Pisces. They don't need evidence, they don't need words, they don't even need you to show any clear expression. They still know, still feel, still see. And what makes them different is that they don't react immediately. They stay silent, observe, and remember. Not because they want to control anyone, but because they can sense the truth others are trying to hide. A glance that shifts, a hesitant answer, a tiny change in energy. To others, it's accidental. To Pisces, it's an alarm bell. And that very sensitivity, when placed in the hands of a wounded heart, becomes a blade. Not to stab, but to gently cut into the exact spot, the deepest, the most painful, the place you never thought anyone could see. They don't scold you, they don't make a scene, but they say the one sentence that silences you. All it takes is one look, enough to make you reflect on yourself. And that is the scariest part. They make you face the part of you that you've been running away from. I was once asked by a Pisces, very gently, "What are you hiding in your heart?" And I remember I couldn't answer. Not because I didn't want to, but because I never thought anyone could see through the mask I had worn for so many years. Pisces has an intuition, like a mirror. When you stand before them, you don't see them, you see yourself. And if you're not ready to face the truth, you will feel fear. Feel invaded. Feel like someone has opened all the secret drawers inside your soul. And the thing is, They don't do it on purpose. They just know, as if it's something natural. And when they recognize that truth, they have two choices. One is to quietly accept and use love to heal. Two is to use their intuition as a defense mechanism, guiding others with emotions, with overwhelming understanding, to the point where the other person feels like they're being manipulated by their own feelings. No shouting, no forcing, but also no escape. Have you ever felt like you were being steered by an emotion that wasn't yours? That you were doing something not because you truly wanted to, but because you were afraid of hurting the other person, afraid of that tear falling, afraid of losing that gaze? If you've ever felt that way, leave a comment. To acknowledge that you've been through something deep, and to let the Pisces listening know they hold power, but they also carry the responsibility of that power. Because love is empathy, but love is not control. And sometimes, the feeling of being seen through can also be a kind of wound if it doesn't come with compassion. Pisces can use intuition to heal. But if the pain inside them is too great, they might also use intuition to protect themselves, to keep someone from leaving, or silently push them into emotional states they once endured. The confusion, the helplessness, the inability to name what they're feeling. And what happens when that deep understanding is no longer used to love, but to hold on, to remind, to reproach, to keep someone from leaving, even when their heart already wants to go? It is right there that we step into a part of Pisces that few dare to speak of. The contradiction between gentleness and the capacity to wound deeply, not through action, but through words, at just the right time, in the most painful place. Reason 6. When gentleness becomes a blade, so sharp it hurts without even cutting. There are things no one thinks are dangerous until they experience them with their own heart. The gentleness of Pisces is one of the most beautiful things you can ever feel in life. They don't love with reason, nor do they love to receive something in return. They love as if they were born programmed to love, gently, compassionately, quietly, and full of sacrifice. But from that softness sometimes emerges an edge that hurts more than any anger ever could. When a Pisces is pushed to the limit, they don't scream, they don't fight back. They simply say one sentence that completely breaks you. A very short, very soft sentence, but it touches the exact part you're afraid to face. No harsh words, no raised voice, but it echoes endlessly inside you like a haunting aftertaste. I remember once during an argument that Pisces simply said, "I don't think you ever truly understood me." And that was enough. Not because the sentence was cruel, but because it was true. So true that I couldn't forgive myself. And from then on I realized something. Pisces doesn't hurt you with harshness, but with truth. And sometimes that truth is wrapped in a very warm blanket, so when you realize it, it's already too late to defend yourself. What makes them dangerous is not toxicity. It's their sensitivity, so deep they always know where the deepest weakness of someone's soul lies. They don't use it to hurt unless they feel forced to defend themselves. But once they react, they don't need weapons. Their words are enough. Have you ever been awakened by a sentence that brought up all the guilt you buried? A sentence that didn't make you angry, didn't make you blame, just made you want to disappear for a while, to not face yourself. If you've ever felt that, please share. Not to blame Pisces, but to reflect. What did you learn from that heartbreak? Because behind that sharpness, Pisces is still a heart full of wounds. They don't speak to destroy you. They speak to say something they've held in for so long and finally had to let out, because there was no other way. But what's more terrifying is not that they hurt you, it's that they don't regret it. Not because they're cold, but because they believe that if they have to choose between staying silent to protect you and speaking out to save themselves, then this is one of the rare times they choose themselves. And that is also why they become more silent after each time like that. Because they know every time they use words as a defense reflex, something inside them also breaks. If you're with a Pisces, don't wait until their silence stretches too long. Look at them carefully. Ask sincerely, how much sadness are you holding in without saying a word? And if they don't answer, understand this. Silence is their final cry for help. If you've ever felt that, if you've ever let someone leave and couldn't stop it, I invite you to leave a comment. It doesn't have to be a story. Just write, I understand this feeling. Because who knows, maybe on the other side of the screen there's a Pisces waiting for someone to understand them, just once. And if you are that Pisces, I just want to say this to you. You don't have to keep retreating forever. You don't have to turn off your emotions to protect yourself. You don't have to disappear for others to finally know how much you were hurting. You deserve to be loved, not because you endured so much, but because your heart is so real. You deserve to be heard, even when you no longer have the words to explain. And if the world doesn't understand you yet, that's okay, as long as you haven't stopped understanding yourself. If this part made your heart tighten somewhere deep inside, please stay a few moments longer after this video and write something just for you. Something you once longed to say, but no one ever had the patience to hear. Because sometimes just one word at the right time can keep a soul from giving up. And if you're still here, all the way to the last second of this video, then I believe your heart is deep, real, and truly beautiful. Please subscribe if you want to keep exploring the hidden pieces of the Zodiac soul. We'll meet again, not just in videos, but in every moment when you need someone to truly understand you. No matter who you are or where you are on your emotional journey, I hope you'll always have the courage to protect your soft heart. And if one day you feel lost in this world, just remember, there's always a place you can return to. That place is you, a Pisces, gentle, deep, and never stops believing in love.